Imagine waking up one day and realizing that everything you thought you knew about yourself wasn't real. The identity you carry, the values, beliefs, and even the emotions that define you were shaped by forces beyond your control. What if you aren't who you think you are? What if the real you, buried under layers of social conditioning and self-deception, is something entirely different? Today, we're going on a journey into the deepest parts of the human mind, using the revolutionary ideas of Friedrich Nietzsche and hidden truths from psychology. By the end of this journey, you'll have uncovered shocking insights about your own mind, insights society would rather you ignore. The final revelation will be the most powerful of all. Most people go through life trapped in a carefully crafted illusion. From childhood, we're told who we should be. We learn to behave in ways that earn approval, and we suppress the parts of ourselves that might lead to rejection. We mold ourselves to fit into our families, schools, and workplaces, thinking this is just how life works. Nietzsche warned that this kind of life is not truly living, it's just unconscious repetition. We follow inherited values and behaviors without ever questioning them. Are you truly in control of your life, or are you just playing a role assigned to you? Nietzsche's philosophy invites us to tear away these illusions and confront the terrifying, yet liberating, truth of who we really are. He spoke of the Übermensch, the higher self that only emerges when we destroy false identities and create our own meaning. But this transformation isn't easy. It requires confronting parts of ourselves we've long ignored or denied. Consider the idea of the shadow, a concept later expanded by Carl Jung, but deeply rooted in Nietzsche's thinking. The shadow represents everything we refuse to acknowledge within ourselves, our suppressed desires, hidden fears, and unspoken thoughts. These are the parts we consider unacceptable, locking them away in the unconscious to function in society. But here's the danger. Ignoring the shadow doesn't make it go away, it only makes it stronger. Have you ever found yourself doing something completely out of character? Have you ever lashed out in anger, felt an irrational impulse, or been drawn to something destructive? That's your shadow revealing itself, the part of you that refuses to be ignored. It will erupt in unexpected ways if you don't acknowledge and integrate it. Nietzsche understood this long before modern psychology did. He warned that those who refuse to confront their own darkness will eventually be controlled by it. The person who denies their inner chaos will become its victim. Think about people who try to be excessively good, those who suppress their desires, avoid conflict, and always seek approval. They are the ones who, at some point, explode with rage or fall into deep despair. The more we suppress our darker nature, the more it festers beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to break free. Society tells us to reject our inner chaos. We're taught to be polite, conform, and suppress our aggression, ambition, and primal instincts. But Nietzsche argued that these instincts are not inherently bad. In fact, they are part of what makes us powerful. The danger lies not in their existence, but in our refusal to acknowledge them. When we deny our true nature, we create a split within ourselves. We present one version to the world while battling another version internally. This internal conflict drains us, leading to anxiety, dissatisfaction, and even self-destruction. So, what's the solution? Nietzsche's answer was radical self-awareness. To become who we truly are, we must be willing to look into the abyss of our own minds without fear. We must be willing to question everything we've been taught about right and wrong, success and failure, about ourselves and the world. But be warned, this path is not for the weak. It demands courage. Courage that few possess. Those who walk this path will experience discomfort, uncertainty, and even moments of existential crisis. But those who endure will emerge transformed. As we continue this journey, we'll explore 3 powerful principles that will change how you see yourself forever. The last one is the most shocking, and once you grasp it, you'll never see the world the same way again. Most people fear the truth, not the truth about the world, but the truth about themselves. They spend their lives crafting carefully controlled identities, filtering their thoughts and behaviors to fit into a version of reality that feels safe. But Nietzsche warned us, man is something to be overcome. The person you think you are is not your final form. It's a fragile construction that must be broken if you want to discover who you truly are. But here's where the fear sets in. Destroying false identity means stepping into the unknown. It means stripping away every comforting illusion, every borrowed belief, and standing alone in the vast, unsettling void of your own consciousness. This is precisely why most people never do it. They choose comfort over truth, routine over transformation, and they turn away from the abyss out of fear that they will lose themselves. But what if losing yourself is the only way to finally find yourself? Consider the role of suffering in self-discovery. Nietzsche saw suffering not as something to avoid, but as a necessary force for transformation. He wrote, "To live is to suffer. To survive is to find meaning in the suffering. The discomfort you feel when questioning your identity and confronting painful truths isn't a sign that you're lost. It's a sign that you're waking up. But most people don't want to wake up. They prefer to remain in the dream, wrapped in the comfort of social validation and familiar habits. They'd rather be controlled by external forces than take responsibility for creating their own identity." This is what Nietzsche called the herd mentality, a life dictated by fear, submission to societal expectations, and an unwillingness to think beyond what's safe and familiar. The true individual, the one seeking real self-knowledge, must be willing to detach from the herd. This doesn't mean rejecting society entirely. It means refusing to let society dictate the course of your life. It means stepping outside the roles you've been assigned, son, daughter, friend, employee, citizen, and asking, who am I beyond all of this? Most people never ask this question. They move through life as if following a script written by someone else, never realizing they have the power to rewrite it. They believe they are free, but in reality they're trapped by invisible chains of expectation, fear, and conformity. And here lies one of the most dangerous illusions of all, the belief that you already know yourself. If you stripped away your name, your job, your nationality, and every external label, what would be left? Can you truly define yourself without relying on the structures society has placed around you? Or would you find that beneath it all, you're just a collection of habits, fears, and borrowed ideas? Nietzsche's philosophy forces us to confront this unsettling reality. He challenges us to become more than the sum of our conditioning, to break free from the shallow self-image we've constructed and create something new, something authentic. But there's a cost to this kind of transformation. When you begin to question yourself at this level, you'll experience resistance, not just from the world around you, but from within. Your mind will fight against the process, clinging to old identities out of fear of the unknown. You may feel lost, as if you're standing on the edge of an abyss, staring into something vast and unknowable. But Nietzsche urges us not to look away. Instead, he tells us we must become strong enough to face the abyss head-on, to let it shape us rather than destroy us. This is the path of the Übermensch, the one who transcends ordinary existence, who doesn't merely accept truths handed down by others, but instead creates their own meaning. It's a path of struggle, but also immense power. Once you realize you're the one shaping your reality, you become unstoppable. But how do we do this? How do we take control of our own evolution instead of being passively shaped by the forces around us? The key lies in 3 psychological principles, 3 insights so powerful they can completely change how you see yourself. The last one is the most dangerous of all because once you understand it, there's no going back. The first principle is accepting internal conflict. Most people believe they should be at peace with themselves, that inner harmony is the ultimate goal. But Nietzsche saw it differently. He knew that within every person is a battle, a struggle between who we are and who we've been conditioned to be. Think about it. How many times have you felt pulled in 2 directions? One part of you wants to break free, explore, and take risks, but another part clings to comfort, routine, and the safety of the familiar. This inner conflict isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of life. It's the tension between who you've been and who you could become. Nietzsche believed that great individuals don't eliminate this conflict. They embrace it. They channel it into growth rather than letting it paralyze them. He wrote, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." The person who seeks complete inner peace is often running from themselves, trying to silence the very forces that could lead to their transformation. So, the first step is not to seek harmony, but to accept the war within. Understand that the self isn't a single fixed identity, but a battlefield of competing desires, fears, and instincts. Your task isn't to suppress this battle, but to direct it, to use it as fuel for your evolution. This leads us to the second principle, the necessity of destruction. Most people fear change because it requires destruction. They cling to outdated identities, toxic relationships, or unfulfilling jobs, not because these things make them happy, but because they're afraid of what life would look like without them. But Nietzsche taught us that destruction is a necessary part of creation. If you want to evolve, you must be willing to let go of what no longer serves you. This might mean letting go of old beliefs, relationships that keep you stuck, or even the person you've always thought you were. Destruction is painful, but it's also liberating. It clears space for something new, something more aligned with your true self to emerge. But this brings us to the final principle, the one that will shake you to your core. You don't fully know yourself because part of your identity is shaped by forces beyond your control. This isn't an easy truth to accept.